Now, we move on to the next section between you and the break. And it's going to be a discussion panel, which is going to be led by my colleague Suzanne Hurter from TNO. She has recently joined TNO Netherlands and still holding her professorship position at the University of Queensland in Australia. She is at the Department of Earth Sciences in the University of Queensland. She has also held various roles prior to Queensland in Shell, Netherlands, Schlumberger, Netherlands and Australia, QGC and Energy, Shell PetroChina. Previously, she has also worked in academia in Germany, Helmholtz Center for Geosciences in Potsdam, and Leipzig Institute of Applied Geophysics in Hanover, and also in Brazil, in the University of Sao Paulo. Her research interests and activities include hydrocarbon maturation and thermal evaluation of sedimentary basins, CCS, coupled modeling of flow heat in porous and fractured media, and using numerical modeling to evaluate and improve onshore gas production. Thanks very much, Suzanne, for accepting to lead this, I hope to be a bit provocative session. We will see. So she has planned something exciting for you.
Yes,
and
hello.
I'll act as her assistant. Oh, you have.
I'll let you hold that. I think I've been all wired up. I'm not quite sure who you were talking about there. I've never heard myself described back to me like this, but yeah, it's a pleasure being here.
I Googled you.
Oh yes, the joys of the internet. So what we're going to try and maybe initiate, I'm not sure we'll achieve it, is looking at technical and scientific opportunities around underground hydrogen storage. I've made some notes over the 2 days, and we're going to miss, so let's say, the input of tomorrow, but I'm sure we can integrate that. And I think we've seen the large picture put together, the context. We've heard about existing operational experience and experiments. We've got, I think, we're a bit in awe of the ambitious goals that are being set. And we've also heard about already ongoing research projects. Today was a much more technically, scientifically, I think, heavy, deep dive into hydrogen properties under different conditions, its relationships or not with other kinds of gases, hydrodynamics, thermodynamics, mathematical descriptions. Now, we have a combination of researchers and practitioners here today, so I think this is going to be really good. And I'm going to just spark this discussion by a question that, being a researcher, is kind of, close to my heart. So if you had unlimited funds available, let's dream a little, what would be the title of your proposal or your topic to support the deployment of underground hydrogen storage?
Unlimited. Unlimited.
Maybe not unlimited time, but unlimited
resources.
Resources.
Think about the topics. We will take note of your topics. Bart said field implementation, right? Field trial. Field trial square. That's Shell's view.
So a lot of field trials.
Yeah, many. I see a lot of notes. Yes.
Yeah.
Because they cost the most, also. Yes.
So you go right, I go left, if needed. Yeah.
I've got some keywords maybe to help inspire. What about materials for hydrogen wells? Yesterday we heard about subsidence. Well, we've just had a deep dive in biomethanation in a way, and mixing. That was my favorite today, actually. I am in awe of the mixing challenge.
I guess there's one word that we haven't heard enough of and we can't hear enough of: safety. So I'd look at safety during wellbore construction and completions.
Sorry for my writing. I also have not practiced this in decades,
There are
but
online,
I'm loving it.
online comments as well, Suzanne.
Yes.
We have social embedding and license to operate. Licensing in a way, and social embedding. Another colleague saying hydrogen recovery, which is minimizing the loss. Yeah. Few on the social aspect, public perception. Yeah.
Building on the safety theme, safety during operations, and as well as aftercare. So particularly for abandonment and what happens to these caverns once the operator has left.
I'm going to put an extra here.
Vanessa, introduce yourself.
Decommissioning, does that? Aftercare.
Vanessa Iorio from ENI. Compatibility with material, compatibility with environmental, compatibility with everything.
Okay, compatibility
With the environment.
cubed.
Susan, I would spend as much as I could on data collection. As Nicole said, there was a problem, but there is always a problem with sampling and monitoring. So I would just do any measurements I could, all.
Okay, to the power 2. You can make the power go on. On Nicole. Hamid, Nicole.
Yeah, then a big database, really, where you put in all your data collected. Everybody has access. A lot of metadata for everyone, well supervised.
This would be quite an investment because
A lot.
it's also all about the data scrubbing, assuring its origin and everything else. But it probably would be quite useful.
Uncertainty quantification.
Ah,
That was mine sold out as online comment. So it was my comment. Yeah, exactly. It's combined with data. Exactly. Sergi has also.
Yeah, I was thinking about a clear guideline for operators. So what kind of steps do you need to take as a starting operator in getting a development cycle established?
Operation guidelines. Excellent. Remco.
Serge, isn't that going to be part of the outcome maybe of your TCP? Or is that
Could be, but there are a lot to cover in that IEA.
And another one, validated field scale models with proper accounting for uncertainty.
Validation of more, especially students who are attending also. What would you like to work on? Which one you find most? Great, Maxime. I think we now know everybody.
Yeah, Maxime, University of Bergen. Life cycle analysis of carbon footprint for underground hydrogen storage.
Ah, so if we're contributing to reducing emissions, we want to make sure we actually do
Carbon footprint exergy
Right.
analysis.
Side analysis.
Interesting, very interesting. Actually, what would you? There are some wise, silent people in the room. I try to motivate them.
Maximilian Wirth, TU Clausthal.
Yeah.
Maybe also an international legal framework.
International
legal framework. Maybe
Ooh.
starting in the EU and going further from that.
Yes, our ladies from yesterday
all
would
included.
probably.
It's more towards the policy making.
I would add development of methods for atmospheric sensing and satellite remote sensing of leakage.
Okay.
Remote sensing of leakage. What we had to do with methane and all other things.
Methane is much more visible than
I see.
and so that's what I'm worried about.
So we just would be able to remotely detect.
Methane is very easy to detect.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's difficult.
Yeah.
What is it?
What about our models? Are they good enough to reflect all of the phenomena that we've been looking at? By models, I mean we've seen some good developments in the mathematical model space, but I, having worked at operators, kind of had that, well, we use commercial simulators. And so are they up and ready for that? Do we need to do some kind of a
multi-scale stays, lab to field, how to connect the two through models, from lab to field with model. There is one other from online participants about biomethanation. Would it work? So the colleague would spend the unlimited resource on making biomethanation.
So the green
Conversion.
gas.
The conversion, yeah, green, exactly, conversion. What is it? That's okay. That's okay. And one other colleague says market for hydrogen. That's a bit different than underground hydrogen storage, but still market for hydrogen, market.
Well, that might influence the types of storage or production.
I don't know if it could be a good idea or not, but what I can think is that hydrogen storage is doable, but what I can see as a real limitation for that is the humans that are interested to do it. I think we have a lot of questions we can have and we can provide some funds, but we still have a lot of interested people to work on this.
Attract talents to the business.
So on the one hand, the number of PhD students here that are developing possibly into further research or practitioners, but there's probably going to be some need in further training and development at all levels, from operations to whatever. So not quite sure how big this is today.
Ming Ong Kwan, Halliburton. So yesterday, I think the market is still developing, right? If we are trying, I think what's useful is to have project economics, business case modeling, so we don't have to try in many different countries the variations. So if you have the input, you can test it. I think the project viability, it's really key to try. It's like a version 1 of the driverless car, but you want to build one quickly and then iterate from there.
And what we use for the oil and gas industry doesn't work? Do we need something specific? Because many more multiple sources possibly and colors of hydrogen.
Yeah, sure.
I see that the field trials are on top or the first mentioned. What I think about, let's say, the work we do on the state supervision of mines is we now do research on how the methane is emitting from the old wells. And what we experience is that our measuring methods are not good enough. So do you have enough measuring methods or monitoring methods to make those field trials productive or not?
It can be that is on the table, on the blackboard, but as a modeler, we are really interested on a consistent data set. You know what it means? That means, for instance, we need really measurements on the pore scale related to the same system, on the field scale for the different purposes. I think that is extremely helpful, and this is not available. And that is really very expensive. But if you can find really a solution for this kind of things so that we have really a test site where we can do all these kind of things together, from the bio to the port to the parameters and so on, then I'm 100% sure we get really a better understanding about the whole process, if it's possible.
Soon in October in Theodelph, we are drilling a double of geothermal well, and it's taken a long time to get licensing operation,
Yeah.
but that is supposed to be a research well, plus also commercial benefit from it. And also we have been discussing with the operations to allow us put a lot of sensors and instruments. Then it would have well bore would be much bigger than typical well bores, because there will be a lot of instruments and sensors to be there.
And I'm really interested to have enough hydrogen to handle this.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I mean? For
Production,
instance, if you have this kind of test site, then we must ask for hydrogen, and then we get a container of one container of hydrogen. That's not helpful. We are really interested on the real process, and if we get it, then of course we have really a chance to get realistic information.
Well, we're still on the dreaming phase because I said unlimited funds. What this reminded me was the first trials for CCS that were limited by the amount of trucks for Coca-Cola CO2 that you were able to afford to bring to your well site. So it's plentiful materials for that.
Nicole?
Yeah, when we're talking about unlimited money, so then I would make a huge conference, fly in all the people who work on this. They get paid everything, the hotel, the hours, which is always the most expensive one, is the hours of people spending.
When we fly, of course, then we will use aeroplanes that offers fuel cells with hydrogen. Is this correct?
maybe in the future
Maybe
then.
green is possible. Okay.
Yeah, but just sit together for a week and really stick our heads together and decide on what kind of methods, because we're all using different methods. It's different setups, different thinkings, and really decide, okay, where do we want to go together?
Establish a new platform
Yeah,
for science
exactly.
integration.
Some standards, maybe we all cling to some operational procedures we all accept as given, and then
We have a new member in the organizing committee.
So what you're saying is to take this platform, make it into something of a higher frequency, and be able
More
to...
inclusive.
Now, if I've got a wish here, then I would also move it from place to place to give chance to also... I mean, it was successful because we had a lot of online, or have a lot of online participants But if you move it somewhere else, then you might be able to address a different physical crowd, let's say it. But yeah, I'm not quite sure I'm going to call this or H2 network. Because this is also could be a project to be funded somehow.
We have one, yeah, and then introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Silke from EBN. I would also invest on the application side. So, for example, at synthetic fuels, so that you really get a push from a hydrogen economy.
So, okay, so I think we've got already a good list there. I imagine that we can collect, because there's probably also more also from the online participants. And maybe I think Hadi might like to revisit this at the end of tomorrow, where he was looking at what's our next steps, where are we going from there, and yeah, this could turn into a white paper, hopefully, about what could be.
That was one
added.
of the concepts we discussed as well, that we could also write a kind of an updated review article about where do we stand, what are the key challenges. It could be also a kind of a white paper about what do we collectively
I guess
think
that's
about.
Serge again.
So this is something that we would, Serge is doing that for IEA. Good. Do you have your second question from the company and just
so from practitioners here, is there one that you would consider you would want to fund first or second?
So if you were the investors, which one would you sponsor?
I would choose one.
Speaking from an industry perspective, we don't do anything unless we know how we can monetize it. That would be the very first thing. What is the business model to make it happen?
I've got my preferred one. Anybody interested, or anybody want to share their favorite one?
It sounds a bit wrong to elect my own entry to the list as the one that I like the most, but I'll give it a perspective on it. At State Supervision of Mines, a very valued colleague of ours recently said, the future of state supervision is aftercare. Because if you look at the moment how much trouble we already have in the Netherlands with processes, with mining processes which are being decommissioned or have been decommissioned for several decades, and they're still causing problems, still causing us work. It would be a shame if after 10, 20, 30 years of hydrogen cavern and reservoir production, it turns out that this was actually poor choice to begin with, so to say. And we are taking a, what's the Dutch word? What's the English word for the hypotheek? Mortgage, a mortgage on the future.
So I guess in addition to dreaming about research funds, the other question would have been, if we were 10 years from now, what would be the concerns that we have? What would we have wanted to know to be able to be confident about? at least safety. So I'm going to say my favourite, and then we can...
Yes, please.
So my favourite is the field trials. However, the reason for that is because I'd like to connect it to some reference case study in which we actually can integrate a lot of this, because we can hopefully be able to drill a well, core it, maybe create specific well tests for hydrogen that account for the mechanical behavior of high changes in rates. We can do microbiology, we can do data collection, database, understand how we would address uncertainty quantification, and do all the other bits that are, I think, there, but focused. And it could be a field trial, or it could be a group of field trials looking at various different places. So, and that's because I'm assuming I have unlimited funding. But I know it's not the case, but I think it's a good exercise to put out and then refine it to what could be doable.
Excellent.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Suzanne.
Thank you for everybody participating.
Excellent. Very well done.